Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at driving into space. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be looking at a sequence which we're then looking at to drive into space. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we've got this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So in terms of players, we're going to have 10 outfield players this week. So we're going to be splitting it into two groups of 5, okay? So for now, you're going to have 2 players at the start point and then 1 player on each cone. In terms of equipment for this week, we're looking at balls, bibs and cones, okay? And then if we do some small-sided goal areas instead, then and you don't have them, you can use poles as well. So in terms of the setup, for this part of the session, we're going 25 yards across, okay, and 25 yards down here as well. So this player is in the centre of it, so about 12 yards in. And then we're going around about 15 yards from this player here into the line which they're looking to cross. So it's quite a basic setup, so it's a good warm-up one. You can look to maybe add in a couple of 1-2s if you wanted to progress it. If you add more players, you can obviously add more passes in, more groups as well, because the players are going to be split into 2 for now. So how it's going to work is, it's as if we're playing into an area to play out, and then, which creates the space to then play forward and then drive into space. So pretty simple. Player at the start point is going to play into the player in the middle, receive on the back foot, okay, so the players are following the passes, play out to the player who's high and wide again. They then look to open the play out again, to play the ball in to the next player, okay, who's going to be the player who's going to be dribbling. So these players moving up whilst this is happening, okay, and then this player looks to attack the space quickly, okay, so keeping that ball in the vicinity, okay, of the body, but making sure as well that they're driving into space. We don't want a big massive touch and we're chasing after the ball. We want to make sure the ball goes out our feet, but that we're always in control of the ball as well. Drive through the gate and then look to play forward through the goal. So then if you add a goalkeeper, it could be drive into space and then finish. As soon as the player has played through there, obviously you're going to need a few footballs for this. The next ball will go, the player joins the back of the queue again, it's open and out in here, playing high, open and out again, players are following the passes, create that space to receive on the back foot, and then attack the space quickly. If you wanted to as well, you could even include some mannequins, where the players have got to try and show some skill to get around the mannequin, okay, it's just something to get in the way, which enforces them to maybe drop the shoulder to take the ball into space, and then play forward through the goal as if they're either finishing, or it can be a pass again into space once they've attacked that space in front of them. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into more of a small-sided game-based scenario where we're looking to attack the corners, okay, so the gates to score. So we're trying to create that space and then have that confidence to drive and attack the space to score. So the first team to score to drive the ball in all 4 gates wins. Okay, so if the ball goes into the yellows and they drive in and score in this gate, but then lose the ball, then they still got to score in these 2 gates once they retain possession. In terms of setup, we're going with a 40 by 40 area, and then these areas here can be 5 yards by 5 yards. The reason we're going 40 by 40 is so there's more space to attack. We don't want it being too tight because we're trying to create some space for players to drive in with the ball, okay? Obviously, it's a bit harder to defend in. If you're working with younger players, you might bring it in a little bit more, but then if you've got more players again, look to increase the size if you can, because obviously we're trying to make it so that in a game, once you've created space, you're able to drive in and it doesn't become too congested in there in terms of that the opposition can just easily get around the gates and stop people dribbling in. If that's the case, then you might get the ball and there's a player occupying. Obviously, an opposition defender can't go in the box, but they might try and make it difficult for someone to dribble in. So we've got to start thinking about how we beat the players 1v1 in terms of dropping the shoulder, the skill, any skills as well, and then protecting the ball as well. So the ball can get played into either team's start. So if the yellows receive it here, they might get closed down here and the player might look to receive the ball in space. They might look to drive into there. If an option becomes closed off, it might be move that ball quickly, and then once they get it into area, attack the space. As soon as they've got the ball in a gate, okay, then they're looking to go elsewhere. So the player can dribble it out, they can play out, they might play in, it might get played out again, and then we could see someone look to drive into space. So by driving into space as well, it then forces a defender to say, okay, do we let them drive into space or do we go and engage? If they let them drive into space, means we get to travel more, okay, before they look to intercept. If they look to engage quickly, it can create space for another player to then receive the ball and drive into space. So let's then say that the Blues won the ball back. So we tried to just, let's say, play in here, the Blues won it back. They haven't obviously scored in any gate, so they're just going to look to get anywhere they can quickly, and they're into there. Okay, so then that means that the yellows have scored in 2 gates, the Blues have scored in 1. The Blues will then obviously look to go and attack elsewhere. As soon as you get that opportunity, attack the space, okay? The yellows then win it back, okay? So let's say the Blues try and play to here, and it gets intercepted. They've still got to score in these 2 gates. A player might instantly receive the ball and he can go and attack the space. They've done it, brilliant. So that means they've got 1 more gate to score in. So for the Blues, they're then thinking, okay, can we protect this space in behind? So they might have a couple of players pressing and 2 players in behind. So for the yellows, then it's stretching the pitch, okay? So that when we're playing through, we're playing into space, and then again, the Blues can't obviously just let players have the ball. Eventually, someone will look to engage. We can find that space in behind a player and then go in and score. So once the game's finished, it could be over after 2 minutes, it could be over after 5 minutes, okay? Reset and then go again. So you could play to maybe a certain amount of games wins. So it could be maybe like best of 5 or first to 5, depending on obviously how the players are finding the drill, how you think the drill's going, how you can progress it as well. And then again, for how much time that you have in the session. So again, attacking that space, okay, the acceleration with the ball, our movement off the ball as well, and then again, having that confidence to drive into the space. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, so moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now moving into another small-sided game, which is focusing on attacking the space on transition now. So in terms of the setup, in terms of the depth, okay, in the central area, again, we're going to go 40 yards. You can increase and decrease that depending on, again, the numbers and the age group that you're working with. And then the end zones in here can just be 5 yards, okay? This area in the middle can anywhere between 5 and 10 yards. You don't want it to be too big, okay, because then it's too easy to play through as well. And obviously you don't want it to be too small as well. In terms of width, okay, you can start off with either between 30 and 40 yards or even in between that, because obviously we're trying to make it wide so that when we retain possession and win the ball back, we've got space to attack into, okay? So what the aim is, so the team who's going to be starting in possession, okay, they're looking to retain the ball by using their middle player, okay? So it gives us an overload on the outside of here. So this player can swap over though after a certain amount of time, or you can just create a thing where they might play in and play out, and then this player might move out and somebody else might move in, okay? So every time they play through, they get a point, okay? So that's their aim to play through. So for us, what we're trying to do is prevent that going in. The Blues aren't allowed to go in the box. So they might play in and play out. There's a point, okay? And then they might play the ball across. And we're just looking to obviously put pressure on the ball to eventually look to win it back. Once the Blues win it back, they're looking to attack either end as quickly as possible. So it might be that as soon as they get it, they secure the ball, okay, and there's the space to drive in and score, drive in and attack. You could have, once they get into here, you could have a goal for them to score into. If you've got goalkeepers as well, you could just have one area to go and attack once they win it back, and then they can go into there. You could have little small-sided goals if you want to. Because we're focused on dribbling, focus on driving into that space as quick as we can. When they do that, okay, they then get a point as well. And then what you can do is, it could be that the teams then swap over then. The blue team become the team in possession and the yellows have to try and win it back. Or it can be you want to keep a team in there for a certain amount of time and you want to work with the Blues, okay, to start with on their dribbling and obviously on transition, and the Yellows can be a team in possession, and after a certain amount of time swap it over. And then once both teams have had a go at doing both roles, it can then be every time a goal you score by dribbling, you look to switch over. So again, it's showing that intent to win the ball, okay? So obviously we're trying to prevent that ball going through. So when it's coming into here, okay, let the ball go away from the middle area, okay, we can shuffle across. And then as they try and play through, if they do try and play through, okay, make sure that we're marking the players as well who can receive it back. So if he plays into here, okay, where's the options for them to play out? They might try and play out here and we intercept it. And then again, where's our movement? Can we look to get the ball into space quickly? The Yellows look to recover, but we're looking to drive into space to score. Okay, so attacking that space, the acceleration with the ball, okay, use of both feet as well, being able to shift the ball from side to side, moving out of tight spaces, so both in terms of passing the ball and then dribbling as well, so giving the players that confidence to know that they can drive with the ball, and then that composure when we've got it as well, so not rushing it, getting our head up, being aware of the surroundings, and then encouraging each other to drive into that space to score on transition, so we can obviously, we're attacking that, we're getting out of pressure, and then we can go in and score on the final third. And then if we have goalkeepers or you want to add small-sided goals in as well into here to give something to score into afterwards, then you can as well. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.